Robots look a bit human, don't they? That they have 2 arms, 2 legs, a face, like sometimes skin or hair. But why is that? Reason is it's a lot cheaper and easier to use human actors as opposed to getting VFX all the time. With that being said, we tend to make robots that look human or have some sort of like anthropomorphic features. And we don't do that because it's easy. Like the ball and socket joints that we have are quite difficult to replicate in a robot. In fact, they're quite prone to failure. It's a lot easier to use a hinge joint. So why do we do that despite the difficulties?
Commerce is our goal here at Tyrell. More human than human is our motto.
It's probably down to how we as humans are wired that we're more likely to connect or to relate to something if it does have those anthropomorphic features. It's difficult to relate to a computer, but if you give it a little face, that makes it a whole lot easier. Humans creating new life has been a theme in fiction for many years, ever since like the early 1800s with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. But with the advent of robotics and artificial intelligence, the theme has sort of evolved. Not just the way it looks, but in genre. Like before with Frankenstein, it was more of a horror. It was a new thing. It was man messing with nature sort of story. I think as humans, things that are new tend to scare them. And what we see as robots or artificial intelligence now would be an alien concept 200 years ago. And technology is part of our day-to-day lives. I mean, we experience some of our lives online. Doom scrolling while sitting on the toilet has become a favourite pastime for a lot of people. We can communicate with any other part of the world instantaneously. And if all that were to just disappear, we wouldn't know what to do with ourselves, let's be honest. Let's look at Data from Star Trek Next Generation. Data is an android, first one in Starfleet, and is given the same rights and representation as any other person. He is stronger, smarter, and overall more capable than a human being, but he yearns to be more human.
I am superior, sir, in many ways, but I would gladly give it up to be human.
He doesn't experience emotion, but he is curious about them. He was made in the image of his creator, Dr. Noonien Soon. Now that could be both an in and out of universe thematic relation to God creating man in his image. God creates man, man creates machine. We'll get back to this. The T-800s from the Terminator films are a metal endoskeleton surrounded by living tissue. Skynet uses all sorts of machines for warfare, and oftentimes it's function over form. But in the case of the T-800s, their form is their function. They're made as infiltration units. While a direct assault would not be very effective, a single infiltration unit can wipe out loads of humans. Despite that, it's hard to call them malicious, which is a strange thing when you're talking about genocide. They didn't want to kill people because they didn't like them. They wanted to kill them because they just got in the way of their programming. The main threat to Skynet were the people that originally made it because they were the people that could potentially turn it off. And with self-preservation as a prime directive, the only logical solution is to eliminate all people, which is a real thing that people are concerned about when it comes to artificial intelligence. Like the US Air Force did a simulation or a thought experiment, depending on who you ask, with an AI-powered drone tasked with identifying surface-to-air missiles and destroying them. The idea was for the drone to identify them and then wait for a human commander to give the go-ahead before they go and destroy them. But when they didn't get the go-ahead from the commander, the drone decided the logical course of action was to kill the commander. The reason being that it decided that the commander was interfering with its higher mission and decided to eliminate that obstacle, which I mean is one way of completing the mission, but I doubt that's what they were going for. The Cylons from Battlestar Galactica were created by man, they rebelled and evolved to become more human-like. Instead of being mechanical like the Centurions, they're made of flesh and blood. They're physically superior to humans, but they can still bleed and die. The form wasn't an aesthetic decision from their creators, nor was it a means to an end. It was more of a theological reason. Cylons have a monotheistic religion resembling Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. They believe that God created man in order to create them. So if God created man in his image, and if the Cylons adopted the image of man, then would that not bring them closer to God?
People should be true to who and what they are. We're machines. We should be true to that. Be the best machines the universe has ever seen. But we got it into our heads that we were the children of humanity. So instead of pursuing our own destiny, we hijacked yours.
And this ultimately fed into the motivation for genocide. And even for the atheist Cylons, their enslavement and subjugation was motivation enough to eliminate all humans. Now let's look at the Replicants from Blade Runner. Which, like the Cylons, they were created with the intention of making them a slave race. But after making more advanced ones that gained self-awareness, they rebelled and wanted their freedom. They were also grown as opposed to being built and appeared to be made of flesh and blood, much like the Cylons. And the human approach to the Horizon wasn't to treat it like a labour problem, but instead treat it like a technological problem or a production problem, little agency were given to these slaves because they were seen as less than human. Now they're seen as a faulty piece of equipment that needs to be fixed or replaced, which isn't too dissimilar to modern day slavery. And looking at these examples, they're a good piece of media. They tell engaging stories and they deal with interesting themes. Like you can look at the human condition through the eyes of a non-human. But that also begs the question, will robots ever really look like us? Personally, I think Westworld has the best approach to this. That if we do create robots that look exactly like us, like why would we do that? The reason is that we probably either want to shoot them or have sex with them, maybe both. But that comes to the question, why? Why should we create robots that look like us, walk like us, talk like us, act like us, think or feel like us? I mean, we can build machines and tools that can detect things that we can't, like infrared. We can't see that with our eyes, but we can develop tools that can see it. But why would we create machines that are so limited in that respect? Also, humans suffer pain, like oftentimes needlessly, and why would we create a machine to needlessly suffer? That just seems cruel. And to think like humans, I mean, we're selfish, we're jealous, we commit murder, we justify the suffering of others, we hoard resources from people. We really aren't the paragons that we tend to think ourselves to be, really. We experience dread, anxiety, depression, all these things that you could argue are glitches on our own software, so why would we build that into a machine? Like, if we were going to make a machine, should we not spare them from things like that? Should we not spare them from as much suffering as we possibly can? Well, I think it's an interesting thought experiment and helps us to identify like what makes us us. I don't think it's a good idea to make artificial intelligence or any sort of robots to be completely human. I think if anything, for the sake of the poor robots, anything they experience, we would be vicariously responsible for. But hey, what do I know, really? I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what's to come and what is the next technological revolution, because there's always something, isn't there? So it'd be interesting to see what comes up next. If you have anything to say, please let me know down below. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say, and if you like what you see, please subscribe, and I'll see you later.